You've been studying wrong your entire life, not a little wrong, not slightly off. Fundamentally, completely, textbook wrong. And the worst part? The people who taught you how to study were wrong too. Rereading your notes? Doesn't work. Highlighting everything in 3 colors? Doesn't work. Studying for 5 hours the night before? You already know that one doesn't work. And yet, here you are, still doing all of it. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you what the science of learning actually says about how memory works, why almost everything you were taught is a waste of time, and the exact methods that will let you learn more in 2 hours than most people do in 10. Let's get into it. Here's the core problem. Most people confuse familiarity with knowledge. When you reread a chapter, the words start to feel familiar. Your brain goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen this before," and sends you a little hit of comfort. It feels like learning. It feels productive. You feel like you're doing the right thing. You are not. Cognitive scientists call this the fluency illusion. The false sense that because something feels easy to process, you must know it. The smoother the reading, the more confident you feel. But confidence and competence are not the same thing. A study from Purdue University had 2 groups of students learn the same material. One group reread it, the other group used a technique I'll explain in a minute. Then they tested both groups. 1 week later, the rereaders scored 50% lower, not on a hard exam, on the same content they had just spent time with. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between an A and an F. The problem isn't that you're lazy or that you're bad at learning. The problem is that the strategy you're using is working against how your brain is biologically designed to store information. So before we get to what works, you need to understand one thing: how memory actually works. Your brain doesn't save information like a hard drive. It saves it like a muscle. Think about going to the gym. If you lift the same light weight every day, you don't get stronger. Your body adapts to the demand and stops growing. To build muscle, you need progressive overload. You have to make it slightly harder each time. Memory works exactly the same way. Every time your brain retrieves a piece of information, every time it has to reach for it and pull it back, the neural pathway for that memory gets stronger. The more effort the retrieval takes, the stronger the pathway becomes. This is called the retrieval effect, and it is one of the most replicated findings in cognitive science. Rereading, it requires 0 retrieval effort. The information is right there on the page. Your brain doesn't have to reach for anything. No muscle gets built. Flashcards, practice tests, trying to recall something from a blank page. High retrieval effort. Every time you struggle to remember something and then find it, the memory becomes more durable. This is why studying feels harder when you do it right. Not because you're doing something wrong, because you're actually forcing your brain to work. There are 3 methods built on this science that actually produce results. Let me walk you through each one. Method 1 is the one that study after study keeps coming back to. It's been validated for over a century, and almost nobody uses it. It's called active recall, and the concept is brutally simple. After you read something or watch a lecture, you close the book, close the notes, and try to write down everything you just learned from memory. That's it. No highlighting, no rereading. Just, what do I remember? You will feel uncomfortable. You will draw blanks. You will get things wrong. That discomfort is not failure. That is your brain building the pathway. The moment of struggle is the moment of learning. Here's the practical version. After every section you study, stop, flip your notes over, open a blank document, and write down, in your own words, everything you can remember from what you just covered. Then check your notes to see what you missed. Focus your next pass only on the gaps. What you'll find, and this catches people off guard, is that you remember far less than you thought you did. That's valuable information. Rereading would have hidden that gap from you. Active recall exposes it. Researchers at Washington University found that students who used active recall after each study session retained 2.35 times more information 1 week later than students who simply restudied the material. 2.35 times. From the same amount of study time. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a completely different outcome. But active recall works even better when it's combined with the second method, one that feels counterintuitive at first, but is grounded in hard neuroscience. The second method is called spaced repetition. Here's the problem it solves. Even if you learn something perfectly today, your brain will forget most of it within 24 to 72 hours. This is called the forgetting curve, first mapped by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in the 1880s. And it has been confirmed thousands of times since. Studying the same material in one long session, what most people call a study marathon, puts almost everything in the same memory decay window. You cram it all in, and it all fades together. Spaced repetition breaks the decay cycle. Instead of reviewing material once in a big session, you review it at strategically increasing intervals. Day 1, you learn it. Day 2, you review it briefly. Day 4, you review again. Day 8. Day 16. Each review, just before you're about to forget it permanently. Every time you pull the memory back before it disappears, the next decay curve becomes shallower. The memory lasts longer. Eventually, it becomes nearly permanent. The practical way to implement this is with a tool like Anki, a free flashcard app that uses an algorithm to automatically schedule when to show you each card, based on how well you remembered it last time. Cards you know well appear less often. Cards you struggle with appear constantly until you nail them. Students using Anki with spaced repetition have passed professional medical board exams with thousands of concepts, in half the time of traditional study methods. You don't need to be pre-med for this to change your life. Use it for any subject, any language, any skill that requires memorization. Now. Active recall and spaced repetition together will already put you ahead of 95% of students. But there's a third method that most people have never even heard of. And it is arguably the most powerful of all. It's called the Feynman technique, named after Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century, and famously, a man obsessed with truly understanding things rather than merely memorizing them. The technique has 4 steps. Step 1, pick a concept you want to learn and write it at the top of a blank page. Step 2, explain it as if you were teaching it to a 10-year-old. No jargon, no technical language. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yet. Step 3, identify every point where your explanation broke down. Every moment you said, that's a gap. Go back to your source material and fill that gap. Step 4, simplify further. Use analogies, use stories. Make it so clean that a child could follow it. The reason this works is profound. Complexity is often a hiding place for confusion. When you use technical vocabulary you half understand, your brain lets it slide. The word acts as a stand-in for knowledge you don't actually have. Feynman called this knowing the name of something versus knowing the thing itself. If you can teach it simply, you own it. If you can't, you don't. Every time you study something important, run it through this filter. Try to explain it out loud to yourself, as if you're teaching someone from scratch. The spots where you stumble are exactly where you need to spend more time. So you now have 3 tools that are backed by decades of research and used by the highest performing students and professionals in the world. But before I let you go, there's one more thing you need to know, because you can do everything right and still undermine all of it. Distracted studying, not procrastination, not lack of motivation. Distraction during study time is the single most destructive behavior in any learning session. Here's why. Active recall, spaced repetition, and the Feynman technique all require deep cognitive engagement. They require your brain to be fully in the task, retrieving, connecting, building. Every time you check your phone, you don't just lose the 5 seconds you spent on it. Cognitive research shows that after an interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to full concentration on a complex task, not 5 minutes. 23. One phone check in a 2-hour session can effectively ruin a large portion of it. The fix is simple and non-negotiable. Phone in another room, notifications off, 1 tab open, a timer running for 25-minute focus blocks with short breaks in between. That's the Pomodoro technique. And it pairs with everything we covered today. 2 hours of genuinely distraction-free studying with active recall and spaced repetition will outperform 6 hours of half-focused rereading every single time. The research on this is not close. Let's bring it all together. Almost everything you were taught about studying, rereading, highlighting, long cramming sessions is built on the illusion of learning, not the reality of it. What actually works is this: active recall. Close the book and retrieve everything from memory. The struggle is the point. Spaced repetition, review material at increasing intervals before it fades. Tools like Anki make this automatic. The Feynman technique: explain concepts as simply as possible. If you can't, you have a gap. Find the gap, fill it, and protect every session from distraction, because focused, effortful learning beats passive marathon studying every single time. You don't need more hours, you need better hours. That's the real guide to studying, not the one your school gave you, but the one the science has been pointing to for decades. If you got something from this, do me one favor: like this video. It genuinely helps more people find it, and if this information is as useful as I think it is, it deserves to reach as many people as possible. And if you want more no BS guides like this one, on learning faster, thinking smarter, and actually getting better at the things that matter, subscribe. Every video on this channel is built the same way: cut the fluff, keep what works,